Okay, let's talk about the perfect exercise. You know, the one that's low impact, great for literally any age, and especially amazing for building up your lungs. For most of us, swimming is at the top of that list, right? But what if the very place we go to get stronger lungs is actually secretly harming them?
And yeah, that's not just our opinion. It's universally praised. I mean, doctors literally prescribe swimming for people who have respiratory issues. It's seen as this super gentle, super effective way to build up lung capacity. It really is the go-to for healthy living.
But, and this is a big but, this is where the whole story gets a little weird. If swimming is so fantastic for our lungs, then why are so many elite swimmers, I'm talking about the people who live in the pool, struggling to breathe? We're seeing incredibly high rates of asthma and other breathing problems in this group. It just doesn't add up. It's a total paradox.
And that right there is what we call the swimmer's paradox. You've got these athletes building up incredible lung capacity on one hand, but on the other, the very environment they're training in seems to be causing some serious damage. So let's break this down.
So check this out. It really lays out the contradiction perfectly. On one side, you have the proof of just how powerful these swimmers are. Their lung function is, well, superior. They have statistically higher FVC and FEV1 values. Now, what does that mean? Basically, think of your lungs like a pair of balloons. Swimmers have bigger balloons, and they can empty them out way faster than the rest of us. But then you look at the other side, and that's where the problems pop up. A much, much higher prevalence of asthma and something called exercise-induced bronchospasm. So, what on earth is going on?
And if you want a hard number, here it is. According to some major studies, over 17%, that's almost 1 in 5 Olympic swimmers have been diagnosed with asthma or a related condition. I mean, just think about that. For a group of the world's most elite athletes in a sport that's supposed to be good for your lungs, that is a staggering figure. Yeah, this is definitely not a coincidence. There has to be something specific about the swimming pool environment itself that's causing all these problems. So the real question we have to ask is, what's happening in the water?
Well, the answer, it turns out, is all about chemistry. That crystal clear, inviting pool water, it's not just H2O. It's actually a pretty complex chemical cocktail. So here's how it all goes down. It's a simple 3-step process, really. First, you add chlorine to the water to kill all the nasty microbes. Super important, right? We need that. But then, step 2. That chlorine starts to react with all the stuff that we swimmers bring into the pool with us. We're talking sweat, skin cells, lotions, even urea. And that leads to step 3. This chemical reaction creates a whole new set of compounds called disinfection byproducts, or DBPs for short.
And of all those DBPs, there's one main villain we need to talk about, trichloramine. This stuff is a volatile and, toxic byproduct. And here's the kicker. It doesn't just stay dissolved in the water. It turns into a gas that hovers in a thick, concentrated layer right on top of the water's surface. And where is that? It's exactly where swimmers put their faces to breathe, lap after lap after lap. Inhaling that gas constantly is what really irritates the lining of their airways.
Okay, so we've got this irritating gas. How does that continuous exposure actually translate into real, measurable health problems? Well, as you can imagine, that constant irritation puts a swimmer's lungs under some serious pressure. And the results are pretty clear. You can see swimmers reporting a whole laundry list of symptoms. We're talking upper respiratory stuff, sneezing, itching, a stuffy or runny nose, all the way to more serious lower respiratory problems, like a nagging cough, wheezing, breathlessness, and that really scary feeling of your chest getting tight. And yep, of course, the classic red, irritated eyes and headaches are part of the deal too. And listen, this isn't just a few people complaining. We've got the data to back it up. If you look at the numbers from a key study, you can see just how common this is. Things like sneezing and itching affect almost half of all swimmers studied, and breathlessness and coughing aren't far behind. These are widespread issues for sure.
So you can see this isn't just a simple one-time irritation that goes away. When you're exposed to these DBPs over and over again, it actually causes physical damage and chronic inflammation in your airways. And over time, that makes the lining of your lungs way more sensitive, which can eventually lead to full-blown asthma or just make you more reactive to other allergens in the air.
Okay, so that's the problem. It sounds pretty bad, I know, but it's not all doom and gloom, I promise. The goal here is absolutely not to scare you away from swimming. It's about figuring out how to swim smarter so we can all breathe easier. And the good news is there are solutions, both for the pools themselves and for us as individuals. First off, the people who run the pools have a huge part to play. Better ventilation is absolutely critical. It helps break up and disperse that nasty layer of gas hanging over the water. They can also get smarter about how much chlorine they use, really dialing it in to the smallest effective amount. And hey, there are even safer alternatives out there, like ozonation, that produce fewer of these bad byproducts. And of course, just keeping an eye on the health of frequent swimmers with regular checkups. That's just common sense.
But what about you? What can you do personally? Well, actually a lot, and it starts with the way you swim. There's this technique called total immersion that draws a really interesting line between what it calls human swimming, that flailing, struggling, fighting against the water style, and fish-like swimming, which is all about being smooth and efficient. It's simple. The more efficient you are, the less you're desperately gasping for air, which means you're inhaling less of that toxic gas.
And this quote just nails it. The idea is to create a small hole in the water and then to slip yourself through it, like a fish. I love that. It's not about powering through the water, it's about slipping through it with minimal resistance. When you're more streamlined, you use way less energy. That means less frantic breathing, and you guessed it, less of those harmful chemicals getting into your lungs. All right, so let's put this all together into a simple checklist for safer swimming. First up, shower really well before you get in the pool. This is huge because it washes off a lot of that organic stuff that reacts with chlorine to make DBPs in the first place. Next, try to pick your pool wisely. If you have a choice, go for one that's well ventilated. Then, in the water, focus on that efficient, relaxed, fish-like stroke to keep your breathing calm. And finally, and this is maybe the most important, listen to your body. If you start feeling symptoms, it's a sign to ease up or take a break. That all sounds great going forward, but what if you're already a swimmer who's dealing with these symptoms? You might be wondering, is the damage already done? Is it reversible?
Well, I've got some really good news for you. The research on this is actually super encouraging. Multiple studies have shown that when swimmers dial back their training volume and intensity, their bronchial symptoms and airway inflammation actually go down. This is a huge deal because it strongly suggests that these negative effects aren't permanent. You can reverse them with smarter training and better habits.
So what's the big takeaway here? It's not to be afraid of the pool, not at all. It's just to be more aware. The swimmer's paradox is a powerful reminder that even the healthiest activities can have hidden risks if we're not careful about the environment. And that leaves us with one last big question to think about. How can we start engineering all of our fitness environments to be as healthy as the activities we do inside them?